Good afternoon, distinguished guests of Finopolis Forum, distinguished participants. Today we have the third day of our forum. We are truly impressed. Our today's session and roundtable will have the following discussion. It's an emergent topic called tokenized non-cash funds in bank accounts. Let me emphasize that we're talking about non-cash funds. And first and foremost, let me introduce our esteemed speakers. It's truly interesting. Mikhail Uspenskiy is one of our speakers. He is the representative of the Association of Lawyers of Russia. Dmitry Kolesnikov is the representative of Wildberries. Sergey Popov is the representative of Sberbank. Tatyana Safonova is the representative of Consulting. And Denis Dodon is from Alfa-Bank. And Andrey is from Digital Payments. I'm Ekaterina Lozgacheva. I'm the representative of the Bank of Russia. Distinguished guests, let me warn you that in the end, we'll have voting. It's kind of a survey. You know that you may use Finopolis app. If you haven't downloaded it yet, please use the QR code. It will pop up on the screen right now. Please get ready for it. And in the end, I'll warn you when this voting is launched. Can you see the QR code? If you are eager to download it, please take a look at the screen and do it. And now let us begin. Now, let me say from the outset that I'll pass the floor to our speakers, but I'll also say a few words on the subject matter of our session. What do tokenized non-cash funds in bank accounts mean? When it comes to economic terms, we mean money, which are available on our bank accounts. What's the difference between them? The difference is the following. Tokenized funds are taken into account at another technological basis. I mean, the use of distributed registries and tokenization technologies. In other words, the technological foundation of circulation and accounting of these funds. It is altering. This topic is relatively new. We haven't discussed this topic for a long time. From the international standpoint, our terms are not entrenched yet. Sometimes you hear the following terms: tokenized deposits, tokenized funds, or even programmable funds or money. There are some other varieties of these terms, but I would like to stress that we do not mean digital currency of the Bank of Russia. We do not mean stable coins and other varieties either. We do not mean the coupons or the score we often get. We do not either mean promissory notes or other financial vehicles. We underscore non-cash funds in bank accounts. And the Bank of Russia has recently released a report dedicated to this topic. And today we're going to tackle the opportunities which may be granted by tokenization of non-cash funds in banks. Do any risks arise? Do we need another extra legislative framework and technological framework? And is there any space for non-cash funds in the multitude of payment tools and fund circulation? And I would like to give the floor to our first speaker, to Sergey. Sergey, tell me please, Sberbank is a groundbreaking bank in the field of technologies, both in Russia and overseas. How can Sberbank do it? Sberbank, is there any relationship of Sberbank to tokenized non-cash funds in bank accounts? Is there any room for that, given the digitalization maturity and the maturity of traditional banking? Given the level of the technologies and innovations used. What's your opinion? Yes, good morning, everyone. Thank you very much for your question. I am happy that we witnessed such a lot of people at our session. That's a truly relevant issue. Definitely, we support the ideas of the central bank, and we are proponents of the report, and we discussed it during the previous Finopolis. The Sberbank has been dealing with this topic for approximately 2 years, and we also prompted the release of this report so that the Bank of Russia could pay attention to that. Now we're testing similar models. We come across tokenized deposits and some other vehicles, and we agree that amendments to the legislation should be slight, because in terms of tokenization of money and funds, as for the way it is stipulated, it's quite right. But I would like to underline that you should have a clear understanding of the difference between different kinds of tokenization. We're talking about tokenization, digital financial assets, and money tokenization. We should have a clear understanding. Now I can hear the following questions. Why should we use them while having the digital financial assets? This dilemma has almost been resolved here in Russia. When the law on digital financial assets was formed, we answered this question: why do we need these digital financial assets in the distributed registry? But our customers need extra funds for business promotion. There are some digital financial assets, and hybrid assets will enable the customers to mitigate their credit risks. These forms of money are different. When it comes to tokenized funds in bank accounts of our customers, it's kind of a transformation of one form. The funds are transferred. They had these funds on the settlement account, and then they transferred them to the bank account. And that's the key difference between this tool and the digital financial asset. And as for the advantages, everything is feasible around the clock using the blockchain. The funds may be transferred from one wallet to the other one, without depending on the working hours of central bank or a high street bank. There are some technological breaks. Anyhow, not only do these tokenized funds matter, we need the adequate smart contracts. We should write them in the correct way. This will be conducive to awareness and transparency of transactions. We may supervise everything we write, but it limits the power, the scope of authority, the admissible lead time for a transaction. And there may be a particular template of form of the payment, which is protected by both the payers and the funds. The oracles may also be involved in that, such as sensors, apart from humans. Robotic systems may also be engaged. There's a simple example. The government should allocate a subsidy which will be spent, but we may lack time, and our colleagues will add some points. As for the key realms we witness, there are state governmental contracts, the utility and housing area, smart contracts, and marketplaces. They primarily pay special attention to that, because tokenized funds are all about settlement and calculation. Yes, Sergey, thank you very much. There are such a lot of examples, and all these cases are practical. And Dmitry, you are the representative of big tech. You have been working with the real sector, with the suppliers for a long time. You're dealing with the suppliers of products and services and with the customers. Will they also benefit from it? Yes, thank you very much for your question. I would assess it from the following standpoint. Our current marketplace and Wildberries have the following mission. We should assist others, and small businesses, small enterprises are to be furnished with the necessary toolkits. Not only do we mean a cool funnel of sales, but also the wide range of financial services. Supposing that tomorrow the following forms of tokenized assets emerges in the market. For instance, there may be some stable skin. They may be used by the entrepreneurs. And in this case, I would like to stress that it will be sought after by Wildberries. It will be deemed as a far-reaching one, and it will be implemented in the short run. The main point is the following one. We should furnish the toolkit for all of our customers. That's our first vision. We are constructing a bridge between the entrepreneurs and the financial service. As pertains to the cases of real application, I would focus on smart contracts. I mean the smart contracts in terms of the supervision of target use of funds. We still have a bridge with the marketplaces which sell different goods. And often should we monitor the target, the the target use of these funds. And as for the regulatory authorities, taking a look at the report which was mentioned by Sergey, several models are put forth. They may be assessed from the consortiums or regulatory authorities standpoints. When it comes to regulatory bodies standpoint, the money may be issued without affecting the inflation, because if you issue the funds which are having the target use, the boundary of the use of this, the money is isolated from the main boundary of money use. That's a great opportunity for regulatory authorities, and the history has witnessed these cases. Now we are sticking to the trend, we are engrossed in it, and we will prompt both the initiatives of our regulatory authorities and our colleagues. Yes, Dmitry, thank you very much. I have another question. It is related to this topic. I would like to ask Tatyana that Dmitry primarily mentioned small businesses and entrepreneurs with whom they are working. This platform is kind of a guide towards high-tech and these opportunities, and you are working with corporations and business, the real sector. You provide advisory services to them. In your view, what are the benefits for using tokenized non-cash funds in bank accounts by business, or there may be some drawbacks which are to be considered? Yes, thank you, Ekaterina. Good afternoon. We are the international law firm. We support investment business of our customers, and definitely we are delving into the practice of use of digital tools, their issuance, taxation, sales and purchase. And as for this set of services demanded by the market, we spell out the advantages of digital tools and the room for development and improvement. As for the pros, all the digital tools allow us to cut down on transaction costs, and this may be used, or they may be used while executing smart contracts. How will that be issued in practical terms? It's a conceptual issue. The advantages are crystal clear, but it does work for business if the business is aware that it saves more funds than invested for the process. In the process, it is mandatory to estimate the transaction costs, and this digital format is giving significant fund saving. It's a feasible issue. Everything should be estimated, and then it will be clear why this has to be used. As for the drawbacks of tokenized non-cash funds in bank accounts, there is a plenitude of digital tools, and the business is a little bit misled because there are such a lot of these tools, and professional financial business has got used to particular terms and notions, and now it is hard for it to match the tools, the notions used in the financial legislation, classical financial legislation, and the digital financial legislation. Unless we manage to explain it what these tools mean and why they are to be applicable, it will be hard for this business to harness all these tools. And now we're going to overlap these technologies onto the business notion. And we should spell out why the business necessitates that. As for the civil code, the deposit is the contract of a bank account. Banks have different funds available. Some funds are on the deposits of physical persons, and there are also some funds which are involved in the investment processes. As if we want to tokenize the digital funds, it will be the means of payment. We should distinguish it from the utility digital rules, which cannot be used as a means of payment. If we want to use it as a separate tool, a separate vehicle, there should be a particular law corresponding to it. Maybe it is similar to the law on the digital ruble. If we consider it as a technology or a form of non-cash funds, as a variety, just like a digital ruble, in this case, we'll need amendments. We need point-wise amendments to the legislation, and this will add a new form of digital funds in the legislation. If we're talking about it as a technology of distributed registry, which will be applicable by banks and by other business industries, be it healthcare or something else, presumably there no legislation amendments are needed. It's just the banking technology, but we should understand who it is oriented at, be it banks or physical persons or customers. In my view, that the second example is the right one, because this enables us to answer these questions. Yes, thank you, Tatyana, very much. There are lots of nuances.
Thank you very much, Tatyana. We got some efforts to describe what it is. What is the tokenized assets? And it is very important to understand that there is a general understanding and it is common understanding, so that there are no misunderstanding. Colleagues have mentioned smart contracts, and smart contracts are one of the areas where tokenized assets can be used. Denis, I would like to ask you the following. Smart contracts are already functioning. They've been introduced into operations. They are used both by banks and businesses. So what tokenization could give us else? Or everything is done already? Well, I would first of all begin with evolution and setting the targets. Why we need tokenization? So if we go from the ancient humans to the blockchain, some time ago we had paper payment order, then it was electronic payment order, and now we have tokenization. First, why we need it? First, because this is liquidity, and this new function allows us to speed up the settlements and the payments, because the whole money turnover, financial turnover, is based on the correspondent accounts. And if somebody has a global presence, let's say throughout the Russian Federation, we have 10 time zones, and always the payments are affected by closing and opening the banks in different time zones. And the banks have to think about it all the time. The second aspect is the speed, how fast the money can be turned around. And we also need to make the money obey certain rules. Even within one country, even within one bank, the money is completely detached, completely divided from the practical turnover. So there are three stories. First is liquidity, optimization of the total money volume. Second is how to optimize it using smart contracts. And the third one is programmable aspect. So if we look at the smart contracts and the liquidity, the smart contract allows to set up the rules of the money circulation. If we talk about interbank market, it is possible to organize a payment system using the instruments of tokenization and smart contracts in order to better fulfill the mutual obligations of the banks. And there are already global examples. In Italy, for example, a complete payment system was launched for the banks, and using the distributed ledger, it was possible to set certain rules of liquidity. Is it possible to do it with the traditional tools? Yes, to build a database with the correspondence accounts, etc. And it is possible to program it. But there is one point to take into account. The practice shows that using smart contracts in different business scenarios, we understand that business is not ready to consume these products wrapped in the traditional money pack. So it can be done only under the complete control of the central bank. The main story is how the money is inserted into the business processes. And one thing is the model of governing, and the second is how it is inserted into the scenarios. It is possible to not to set any restrictions and not any limits and allow business to grow up to a certain extent. When the practice shows, the experience shows that when we try to allow business to grow as it is, we found that the platforms are not ready yet. We have a notion of tokenization on one hand, and on the other hand, there is a notion to what extent the market is ready. Okay, thank you. First, the tokenization should bring along something important and valuable, but on the other hand, all the actors, all the participants should be ready for this. Denis mentioned the international experience, and this is a part of the international discussion. And in this regard, I have a question to Andrey. Andrey, it is widely discussed in international agenda, the tokenization in banks in combination with the tokenization of assets. And maybe this combination could give us more advantages and positive effects. Maybe we should look into details. What do you think? Should we expect it or not? Thank you for your question. Well, I want to make a little spoiler. Yes, I think it will give advantages. Why I think so? I always like to look back into history and to see the cause and the consequences relations. In 2015, blockchain 2.0 appeared in the form of the Ethereum networks, and it became possible to tokenize different obligations. So we can make payments in quasi-money or surrogate money, as the central bank of the Russian Federation put it. We're talking about Ethereum. And the idea of payments itself was related to the tokenized assets. Now, if we talk about our situation and about tokenization assets, we're talking about digital financial assets. And this market is developing, but we remember that the DFA are not the means of payment. Of course, we need tokenized money. And here we are facing certain dilemma. Yesterday we were talking about it, and the idea was, and the demand was, let the operators of information systems to launch smart contracts based on the DFA. So, in my view, tokenized assets is an easy and fast instrument. We have 10 operators of information systems, and most of them are either a bank or a part of a big group with a bank participation. Indeed, if we talk about the digital ruble, it is quite a long and highly technological story. But if we can allow the operators of information system to change the basis of the cashless money, then it will fly. And I would say once again that indeed the digital assets, tokenized assets, is a very complementary and synergy effective technologies. And a couple of words more about the international experience. Giving praise to the Central Bank of Russia and to the fintech players. As a matter of fact, we are ahead of many other countries, practically of all other countries. We don't have a lot of practical experience, but it is very important. And one more question I would like to ask. You've mentioned that in this non-regulated environment, when different cryptocurrencies are used, this is where the new technologies appear. But if we're talking about the tokenized assets in the banks are going to grow, is it going to develop, and can it be an alternative for the participants? It is clear that then it should be available for the individuals and for the businesses. So can it be an alternative? Because we know that there are quite high risks. Yes, indeed. I like your question very much. I believe that my answer is yes. As to cryptocurrencies, there are two aspects. One is technology, and the second is the riot approach, let's say. We're not talking about the second, but from the point of view of technology, then the banks of the central bank, the money of the central bank, will be able to compete with the existing technologies. And then I have a question to Mikhail. Mikhail, you are, first of all, a lawyer specialized in digitalization. Do you think that cashless digital money can be used as a means of payment? Because you, as a lawyer, can tell us very clearly. Well, thank you for a very delicate approach from your side, but I would like to say that it is necessary to introduce a new law that will be very rigid and very strict towards the digital assets. So maybe I would express the opinion of the market participants, that it is necessary to have clear explanations. Well, from my point of view of a lawyer, the question is the following: should we have a new object of the civil rights from the point of view of the cashless payments? These are, as a matter of fact, we don't need it, because the tokenized assets is just another form of a demand to the bank. And probably we don't need any strong regulatory actions. Nevertheless, some of the market participants have expressed their interest in stronger regulatory decrees. But if the regulator would issue certain rules and resolutions, and maybe a sub-account could be used for this, this could be a signal from the Bank of Russia that it supports the new approach, the new digital money. Well, Tatyana mentioned that it is very important not to mislead the business. Otherwise, there would be certain fears that there could be disadvantages and losses, and the legal people would begin their activities and the regulator would interfere. So how not to confuse the participants? Well, the basement of justice practices is technological purism. We can call it whatever you want, digital assets, smart contracts, digital ruble, whatever you want. But it is very important not to confuse all these terms. But let us understand what is the tokenized cashless payments. This is for sure not the digital rubles. The second, this tokenized assets is not digital financial assets because the regulator has prohibited the payments in the DFA. And then we have to develop a special term, and everybody should stick to this term. But this should not be the requirement of very strict and harsh regulations from the government. If somebody wants stronger regulations, then your applauses are welcome. Please support it. Well, we don't hear any applauses. Well, as a matter of fact, I was trying to do it artistic. Well, just one comment.
If you take a look at the regulatory authority, not like a regulatory authority, just imagine that the Bank of Russia is a large product factory. It means that there are three types of competition in our marketplace. Banking are competing with one another. Banking are competing with mega regulatory authorities such as product factory, and there's also in-house competition inside in these factories. Just like the Bank of Russia, it has a wide range of products which are now launched in the marketplace, and the banks are also creating the new products, they're establishing and cannibalizing one another. There are a lot of products manufactured by different product factories, and tokenized ruble is one of the products which is 100% inscribed in the current legislation and the regulatory activities. We're continually referring to digital financial assets, but digital financial assets are issued on a regular basis. They have an issuer which envisages the particular inherent parameters, and tokenized rubles do not have any issuers. We have one single issuer called the Bank of Russia, which issues rubles. As for tokenized rubles, it's just a technology of applying different technological essences, and they are applicable to current funds. We do not generate new kinds of money. We're talking about tokenization of deposits, but as for the concept, we mean the use of technological essences, be it smart contracts, blockchain, and digital assets. That's the way of more effective circulation of money. When we talk about the laws 115, 161, they are regulating that, and we are working we are adhering to this law, though we won't be confused. And Mikhail is representative of the technological realm, and our bank representatives also say that we won't be misled. But I truly doubt that, and I believe that we will be confused. And Denis is the advocate for the third way to use the tokenized bank. It's an interbank technology. It's the implementation of the system of distributed registry into the interbank settlement system without creating a new product as it is. The colleagues are adding the following notions: non-cash funds and tokenization. Non-cash funds are the bank commitment. If we issue them to the banks in the tokenized format, and they may be conceded, this should be agreed upon with the lenders. There are lots of legal layers, and a deposit is a particular contract of bank deposit, bank account, and it also obeys particular law, and this should be customized to the digital format. Unless we do it, we're talking about the distributed registry used by the banks because they necessitate it and they have a demand for it from the technological standpoint. And you may also take this stance, it's quite all right, talking about the technologies and the way how this may occur in terms of circulation and the architecture of the tokenized non-cash funds. And I have the following question to Sergey. Sergey, referring to the international expertise, we keep discussing it. Often do they, the market players, namely banks, are considered. We also have international organizations which are concerned with that. They have two types of possible architecture. Sometimes it's based on particular bank platforms, or we may create a single platform for market participants. And therefore, there are certain terms and conditions. In your opinion, which form and which architecture is the more far-reaching one in terms of the opportunities? And are the participants, namely banks, ready to create a single platform? Is that feasible? Yes, thank you very much. That's an enthralling question. We're short of time, otherwise I'll answer Tatyana's question. We shouldn't confuse our customers, and now we're talking about the technical issues. Everyone asks us why we need blockchain, and everything is applicable without blockchain. I'm a programmer by my educational background. I've been working in this field for a long time, and I also had doubts with respect to blockchain, and all the federal and executive bodies are dealing with blockchain in China and functioning in China. The Chinese are focused on blockchain, and as for the key driving force, it's trust and confidence. The report didn't have any notes of blockchain and trust. There are two models. The value may be tokenized in blockchain. It is not in the information security system. It's in the part of blockchain, and also it is reflected, and the value is in the bank system. And in the first case, the truth is blockchain, and in the second case, the truth is the cybersecurity of the bank if there is a discrepancy. And as for the most promising point, the value is to be stored in blockchain. Taking a look at the digital financial asset operators, they store their value in the blockchain, and it's much more complicated than reflecting that. And we should realize whether we are ready enough to act as visionaries while moving towards tokenization. It's more complicated, and we incur risks. All of these risks are spelled out in the report of the central bank, and when it comes to the maximum benefit of it, that's right. Some of the funds may be stored in blockchain or in an ordinary wallet, and we don't have to make our customers perplexed. What really matters is to present it in the right way to our customers. That's the question which arises. May a small or large bank establish a similar system? As for the plenary session, we discussed the following topic. German Graf was talking about GigaChat. Should everyone create a GigaChat, or maybe Yandex and Sberbank will create a GigaChat and all of us will use it? And our leaders showcase that they're ready for a consortium or for establishing a partnership. They are ready to apply the models which cannot be created by banks in isolation. And that is why a consortium is a preferable form of cooperation. And we have reiterated many times that we are ready for this cooperation. We said it this year. These models are complicated. We should move towards this direction when the value is stored in the blockchain. When it comes to decentralized finance, DeFi, or cryptocurrency, we will come across and settle all these challenges. Definitely, we should explore the user experience, but consortium is more preferable. As for consortium, it's the issue of costs and coordination. Denis, and what is your opinion? Will the consortium be in demand, or it's kind of an imaginary product? According to the international practices, consortiums are really challenging, and it is hard to build these models. Most of the consortiums, 99% of them, were closed. They did not survive. I do not mean the interbank consortiums. There are different kinds of consortiums, and they were shut for different reasons. On the one hand, it may seem great in terms of saving funds and scalability. It seems to us that it is attractive for the Russian markets, but most of our banks cannot come to terms in many issues. It's not only related to Russian banks, but it's also related to the banks on the whole. It's hard for them to agree upon some issues. there may be several scenarios under the auspices of the Bank of Russia or the consortium model, or they may build particular models and they are stand alone. Now it is hard to trace the seeds sown where the several participants tokenize something in a shared way after agreeing that upon. This is feasible, but it's a long way because it's challenging for banks to agree upon particular conditions. That's the second point. The first point. As for the second point, I believe that the model which will have particular islands of tokenization customized to particular platforms looks more viable. It seems to be more viable. But if this question is related to interbank settlements and building a payment system based on tokenization, this model may exist. How can we make all the banks agree upon all the terms? It's not possible. It's the regulatory authority which should make an input to that. It shouldn't regulate these relations. It should help them agree upon these terms and conditions. Maybe a pilot experience should be launched. It will show the current efficacy and the difference of this current system from the current settlement system with the Bank of Russia. The regulatory authority is an active player of this market, and it should unite everyone around this business concept in accordance with this interest. Also, Denis has doubts that it is possible to agree upon these items. And now we're talking about the system of direct relations, which is here in Russia. I'm the representative of one of large banks, and a lot of our banks are connected to our network. They install our online products, and we also have their online products of numerous banks, but not all of the banks. And when it comes to Denis' speech, it is hard for a small bank to establish this system. It's very costly, and the regulatory authorities always stress competitiveness. They say that as soon as agree upon all the terms, everything will be all right. We may stipulate it, but as for the bank, which doesn't have these opportunities and capacities, we may grant these tools to the bank. We may call it a consortium or somewhere else, and no. That's true that not all the banks will be able to build a consortium of tokenized funds, but still doing it assistance granted by a regulatory authority. Denis, what's your opinion? Oh, okay. What really matters is to understand that the experience of the central bank is crucial. In terms of tokenized banks, tokenized cash funds and digital rubles, and if I transfer my bank commitments to Denis, we should open up a limit. And as for interoperability, a digital ruble may also arise at a particular stage. It is possible, be it a new feature or a new goal or a new mission of a digital ruble, it may become more powerful in this regard, and we should ponder on it. The digital ruble may act as a linkage between these parts. Denis, maybe you agree with us or something is controversial. As for goal setting, that's what I was talking from the outset. As for the key expectation from tokenization of smart contracts in the context of interbank sector is optimization of liquidity and control over the interbank settlements. As for netting and clearing, it is applicable on a traditional business system or with the use of smart contracts. And in effect, the regulatory authorities should realize whether the current system of Nostro accounts launched by the Bank of Russia is just a database in terms of the mutual requirements and obligations and commitments, or it's a payment system. If we have to upgrade it and add something new, that's the product of netting of bank stats, which will enable us to streamline liquidity. As for streamlining liquidity, we may discontinue time zones from some standpoint. We may withdraw from cut-off times in some cases, and that's all about that. And that's the function of a mega regulatory authority. That's how it views the liquidity management in the interbank sector, and that's why it's our benefit. That's what we should benefit from. And now we would like to figure out the lawyer's opinion. Mikhail, as for the architecture, are there any legal aspects which are to be taken into consideration? May this format affect the way it looks like in the legal field? Maybe some extra points are needed, extra requirements may be needed. There will be a remark or an offer. Let us rebound and return this small item to Tatyana if we need the lender's agreement and the debtor's agreement, and it's all right in terms of obligations and commitment. As when it comes to non-cash funds and the contract of a deposit, that's the requirements with the relations which incur liabilities, and blockchain is about the opportunity to agree upon on this and to expedite these kind of over-dramatic agreements. In my opinion, that's the rare case when I am totally enthusiastic about the presenters of the financial sector's opinion. We may decompose this issue. The issue of tokenization and the involvement of individuals is the long run.
I believe that this is a very fantastic idea, all these blockchain interbank payments. This is very fast. I remember that it can be do similar like Fiat automobile factory was brought to Russia. And maybe we can make a copy-paste practice and to borrow the best practices and to introduce them. So the lawyers actually are needed to help the bankers to agree on certain terms. And if the Bank of Russia wants to participate in something, this can be just for the case to avoid any unpredictable consequences. And this is already a combination of regulatory activities and technology. Interoperability, I think it is clear for everyone, and compatibility of different systems between each other. This is the most important, including blockchain. This is the most important thing in the modern technology. A smart contract can be published for general access, and so that all the participants could know it, and including regulator. Theoretically, if there are some conditions that should be included into smart contracts, and actually smart contracts are more smart than the contracts, we can refer to the stable coins actually. Stable coins already had quite a lot of circulation in blockchain. And smart contracts have special functions like freezing, canceling, zeroing, etc. So we have to, we can have special exclusion clauses in a smart contract. That's it. Tatyana, Mikhail think that the lawyers can help bankers. What do you think? Well, I'm completely confused. Who should help whom? Whether we need to tokenize the bank's assets, or we're going to tokenize the deposits of individuals, so that should it go to the distributed ledger forever, or the banks have the hope to get back the money from somebody. Actually, I'm on the side of the rights of individual and business depositors, because our account protection system has as the foundation the idea to return the money to the depositors, at least to a certain extent. So we have to decide whether we are going to change technology in the banks for their interbank settlement payments, or we are going to tokenize the bank deposits of the individuals and business entities. So we should be ready to answer the question why my money turned into digital asset and they disappeared. Well, I'm very sorry. I am writing, as a matter of fact, I'm a lawyer and I'm writing a publication, scientific publication, and I think that now where the humanity have an instrument to avoid any confusions and doubts. This is for the first time that we have a real instrument to avoid any doubts. Well, another example is vacuum economy or international economy. We've been discussing the market from the point of view of forecastability, the predictability, etc. Let us forget about cryptocurrency, about the blockchain. Let us look at the functional application. Why actually it had been introduced? To make the cross-border settlement and the very easy transformation from ruble to dirham, from dirham to other country, etc. So this is the tokenized essence of the fiat money. And this allows, independent of the time zones and the currencies, to make momentarily trans-border transactions and transfers. So if we have a correct model of governance or management, it can be a consortium or it can be other form of governance. All this digital aspect allows to provide cross-border payments, and we are looking at different aspects. For example, we are talking about the so-called digital currency of the central banks. Why we are talking about CBDC? Because it has, first of all, a trans-border application. Yes, I think this is another aspect, but also it is very important if we are thinking about the development of trans-border payments and settlements. Well, Andrey, the colleagues have been talking a lot about technology. Can it be that from the economic point of view, we don't need to introduce new regulatory norms, but from the point of view of technology, we have to change some aspects or maybe make some rules stricter? Well, we can do it at any time. And I'm actually an adversary, ideological adversary of making the ideology stricter. And if we talk about the platforms, which platform we should choose? We have actually three variants in the report, whether it can be the Bank of Russia or consortium, or each bank can do it independently. Let me stick to my point of view. Let us look closer at the operators of information systems. The Bank of Russia wrote in this document that it should be the distributed ledger. Not every distributed ledger is a blockchain, but the blockchain is a distributed ledger. And the banks indeed managed to create its information systems. This is also a blockchain, but I believe that banks will be able to do this. There is no doubt about it. And the second option is if we try to select between the architectures. First, we have the centralized architecture of the digital money. This is the platform of the digital ruble. Let me actually use the methodology and the terms of the Bank of International Settlements. It is slightly different from the terminology of the central bank. As a matter of fact, we have just one level technology. And also we can consider two-level technology and two-level emission. And the third type is the hybrid technology. Sorry for involving you into all these details, but it does have importance. Every approach has its plus and minuses, pros and contras. So we have one model already. The Bank of Russia introduced it, and 13 Russian banks are already working actively in this. And on the other hand, if we talk about the tokenized non-cash assets in the banks, we are going to have the following. I don't see any competition between the digital ruble and tokenized assets. They are going to cover different parts of the market. And I here represent the fintech institutions. We are providing fertilizers for the, metaphorically saying, we're doing fertilizers for the trees that are going to grow. And I'm now talking about fintech. If it is fairly difficult to get connected to the digital ruble, then the interactions with the banks are easier and simpler. So I'm voting with both hands to allow every bank to create their own platforms, and I'm sure that there would be certain growth and mergers. And now I have a question to Dmitry, the closest to the real sector in practical work. Please, there are so many nuances, but in application to business, is it so important to understand all the technologies? Is it important to understand what a car has under the hood? Or the best answer is just to have a fast vehicle and a comfortable vehicle? Well, I don't think it's correct to apply the new technologies to speed up some elements that work slowly. Probably a certain bank is working slowly, but this is just a technology. And this should be solved with technology. I think this is an effort to solve an issue with incorrect means. We are a fairly small country, but very advanced with the technologies. Maybe with new, now we have the population of 150 million, even taking into account new territories. And it is, I'm absolutely sure that this can be solved from the technical point of view. Now, closing this question, answering your question, it is not equal for us. It is not just the same. If we talk about the retail businesses, the main task is to provide services to the customers. And if the bank clients want to have a new service, we will have to support this requirement. The main point is to have a reliable technology. And if every third operation will be unsuccessful, then of course the business will be losing its orders, its requirements, and this is one thing. And the second point, this technology should be safe and secure, so that it should be secure for the users. And here we can look at the solutions of the big banks, of Sber, we're using it, and it's okay. Yes, indeed, I agree. Thank you very much for your comments. Now we're close to the end of our session. Indeed, there are quite a lot of questions, but we would like to address the audience. And as I promised at the beginning of our session, we're going to provide the voting. Please open your applications, your smartphones, and you will be able to vote. Now the question is about the following. The digitalization is quite deep in the payment sphere, and do you think the tokenization of the non-cash assets will be practical in Russia or not? Please put the voting on the screen. This is the question to our technicians. While our guests are voting, in the meantime, I would like to ask a very brief question. Dear speakers, do you think the digital non-cash assets, tokenized assets, will be in demand in Russia? Just a few words to sum up our session.
Let us start with Mikhail. The floor is yours. Mikhail is always for the sake of all good, and I'm against all the bad things. I think that that's a promising technology. Many crypto market participants could consider it as an alternative to dollar stable coins, for example. There is another example at the other end of Ripple company, winning the court with the American justice and jurisprudence. This will get the ranked files closer to tokenization. Dmitry, what's your opinion? Thank you very much. We believe that this will depend on the goals set by the regulatory authority, because we are primarily engrossed in the use for the goals of a regulatory authority of this technology. Yes, thank you, Sergey. Yes, we said that we put forth this item 2 years ago. We all really believe that this technology is far-reaching. We are embarking on a thorny road, but if we want to be a competitive country, this was discussed yesterday, we will undoubtedly pay attention to these disruptive technologies. We have to invest funds in them. As for our competitiveness, it is of paramount importance, and such tools as the digital ruble and tokenized funds on the customer's account will help us be on the rise and solve all the problems. Sergey, thank you very much. Tatyana, do you still have doubts? Do you still hesitate, or do you have another opinion? I will agree with the majority, and I won't be that extraordinary, but we're talking about the architecture of the system. As for the owners of funds, they pay attention to the fact that this should be safe. And if the technology under the hood, which simplifies their lives and facilitates it, it will be interesting for them. And if they come across other regulatory and tax and accounting requirements, which will hurdle them, they will compare the costs for the labor costs with the costs saved. Yes, Denis, thank you, Tatyana. Denis, what's your opinion? On the one hand, it is imminent, it's inevitable. On the other hand, it won't be a fast process. I'm considering it as the part of a customer scenario and the way it will be implemented in digital platforms. And how can these digital platforms be modified? Unfortunately, many of the products are manufactured out of time. They outpace time in terms of the way they may be consumed in any form. And sometimes we should support regulatory authorities, but we shouldn't impede them, because there are no problematic zones or risks. As for the legal plane, it's explicit. If you create the rules of mutual settlements within the ecosystem, it is stipulated by the Federal Law 161. And as for the technology used under the hood, it is not that important. Yes, Ekaterina, thank you. I'm smiling because I identified some advantages in the extremely negative attitude of regulatory authorities to cryptocurrencies. These initiatives are outperforming, and they are prompted by the Bank of Russia, and tokenized non-cash funds in bank accounts is one of initiatives of this kind. And I'm sure that the emergence of this essence, namely allowing the banks to implement this technology in the accounting system, is an advantage for Russia. There's no doubt, no matter which architecture we select, because any of these architectures will be in favor of the high quality and fast development of fintech services. And I agree with Dmitry and my colleagues. In the end, business and physical persons will benefit from that. That's kind of the issue of end users. Yes, thank you very much. Our speakers are taking pictures of our findings. They are truly crucial. Yes, they are ever-changing. I'm taking a picture of it for the fourth time. Have you voted for them? Now we may take a glance at the results. The vast majority believes that they may be these tokenized non-cash funds in bank accounts may be sought after, but a lot of our participants that it still depends on the architecture and the cost of establishment. It is nuanced. Dear guests, hopefully it was interesting for you. Perhaps you found out something new or looked at it from the different standpoint. If you're not familiar with this topic, you may read an extra report of the Bank of Russia. It's placed on the website. It's informative. But to wrap up, the tokenized non-cash funds is a technology which may have potential in bank accounts, but it's worth discussing. Both bank representatives and lawyers may keep discussing it, and it is also the issue of technologies and innovation. That's the industry specificity. Dear speakers, thank you very much for your participation, and we wish you good continuation of this day. Please enjoy this forum, and we may keep discussing this topic at the sidelines. Thank you very much.